What's up everyone, my name is Eva. Welcome back to Polar Topics. Today we're going to be looking at r/NuclearRevenge. Thieving roommate gets what's coming to him. This got removed from r/ProRevenge, but I thought you all might want to read it as it still makes me laugh. So, nuclear it is. So, many years ago while I was still a teen, I moved out of my parents' place to live across the street from my junior college. There were many students in that building, so I rented a room in a large basement 3-bedroom unit that was reserved for students at the school. I didn't really know anyone in the building as it was on the other side of the city from where I grew up. At the time, there was one other roommate already living in the unit who we'll call Sean. To be kind, Sean was a short, fat putz. Older than myself by a few years, he was in some kind of simplified remedial program as he'd failed a couple of school years and mentioned how this was his last chance to make something of himself in his parents' eyes. Kinda dim, not too much going on in his life, but harmless, or so I thought. Anyways, I was hoping to start off things on the right foot with him as he was to be my roommate, so I wanted to be friends. As I was moving in my stuff, he mentioned how he had no money for a moving van, so I offered to do a trip with my rented van to his parents if he needed any help moving some stuff of his. He happily accepted, so we drove to his parents, where I meet his mother and discover he's from a somewhat affluent family. Somewhat surprising considering he's too broke to hire a moving van. But whatever. A couple of days later, I meet his nice girlfriend who lived up the hill from our apartment. Translation: she was extremely affluent. This girlfriend would dote on him, visiting him a lot at our place, to the point where she regularly hand-delivered him delicious meals that had been prepared at her house. This will be important later. Anyways, it slowly becomes apparent that this unassuming guy has a dishonest streak. While moving my stuff in, I'd mentioned that I had a spare waterbed. He immediately offered to buy it. So I moved it in myself and set it up with the agreement that he'd pay me a friend price, around $200 for a $700 bed. Weeks pass, and he keeps giving me excuses about not paying whenever the subject comes up. He then started to randomly shift the narrative to a story about how his wealthy parents can pay for us to get a great condo in a new development just up the street. I remember wondering why his parents would make such an offer despite the fact that we just moved into our current apartment. This story didn't make sense. Nevertheless, he constantly tried to set up some visit with me and get me involved. I wasn't really interested in moving again at that point, so I never really pursued it. I later learned that that was not only a lie, but a typical ploy of his. Anyways, as I had just moved out of my old neighborhood, I hadn't opened up a new bank account. This was before internet banking in this new part of town, so I was keeping my money, a couple hundred, hidden in my room until I set up an account nearby. I was only loosely keeping track of this money, and barely noticed how my money was going a little quickly until one day I get to my last $40, and it's gone. Unfortunately, by this point, a third roommate had moved into our flat, a cool hippie dude from Maritimes. So, although I was convinced it was Sean who had robbed me, I wasn't 100% sure. To resolve things as nicely as possible, I decided to give him a chance to come clean. So one night I asked him point blank, fairly casually, if he had taken my money, as I noticed a small amount was missing. I'll never forget his reaction. He immediately stiffened, his eyes glazed over, and he blurted out, "I didn't take anything, it wasn't me," and just stared at me. I was shocked. He didn't just look guilty, his reaction had such a rehearsed quality. I could tell he had been accused of similar things many times before. I tried my best to be calm, smile, and act as if I believed him, but inside I was livid. I couldn't stop thinking about how this guy was trying to play me like a fool. I realized that although I knew it was him, I couldn't do anything about it as I had no proof. By this point, I felt sick to be living in the same space as this guy. I realized to get out of the situation and to deal with this jerk appropriately, I would have to lay a trap. To make sure he didn't suspect anything, the next day I was all smiles. Playing dumb, I exclaimed loudly, "I hope I don't lose my money again, I just got paid," and leave the apartment. Before I left, I made sure to leave my video camera filming my room. It was a huge VHS tape camera that I had to hide on my bed, under pillows and stuff. But it still worked like a charm. I came back, replayed the tape, and 16 minutes in, I see that mother fluffer going through my stuff. I tell you, I went cold as ice seeing Sean casually rifle through my things. My suspicions confirmed. I had to cool off with my friends across town over some beers. When I finally told them what was happening, they started pulling out bats, hockey sticks, and suggesting we go pay Sean a visit. As tempting as this was, I was now in college and didn't want to resort to any messy violence. So instead, I plotted my revenge. The first thing I did was to make sure my cool hippie third roommate was in the loop. Not having a lot of time to get to know him, I asked him his thoughts on retribution and if he agreed with an eye for an eye. Confident we were on the same page, I showed him the video. He freaks out over having a thief for a roommate, but I reassure him to just be cool, cause some things are going to happen to Sean real soon. Then, I went to stay at my parents' house and waited until Thursday. You see, Sean liked to talk a lot. Turns out his rich parents had actually kicked him out of the house. The fact he actually found an apartment and gone back to school was a big success for him. On Thursday, he'd be out of the apartment as his parents were having a big congratulatory dinner for him at their place. So I waited until I knew the dinner was underway. Then I called his house to speak to his mother. Crazy thing is, both he and his sister picked up the phone at the same time. So while his sister goes to get his mom on the line, he asks me loudly, "Why are you calling my mother?" His mother gets on, and while Sean is screaming at his mother to hang up, I calmly state, "I'm sorry to disturb you, but I have reason to believe your son has stolen from me." Suddenly, there's dead silence. After almost a minute, she replies with, "Take it up with Sean," and just hangs up. WTF? I don't know what kind of reaction I was expecting, but it wasn't that. Anyways, now with just Sean on the line, I tell him the jig is up. I have him on tape and want my money back. He replies, "You have nothing on me. Forget you." At this point, I realize he's right. I really only filmed him rifling through my stuff. If I went to the police, the charges wouldn't stick, and there was a good chance he knew it. So by this point, I tried very hard to be reasonable about things, but as it was, his rich parents couldn't care less. I had no real proof to go to the police with, and worst of all, I had a year-long lease to live with him. So, forget that stuff. I told him he better find a new place to live and hang up the phone, as it was time to go nuclear on his butt. Remember how I said the putz talk too much? Turns out he bragged about how he faked his credentials for the apartment, and the landlord never checked. So, first step was to drive with my folks to the landlord's office and tell them to evict him for theft immediately. When they started telling me stuff like, "We'll have to take some time to review this matter," I immediately threatened a lawsuit over how they're liable, as I can prove they never did the prescribed background check. My landlord goes pale and instantly promises everything I ask. I then take this moment to go downstairs for a minute, a statement witnessed by multiple people, and then go to Sean's room and take thousands of dollars of his expensive stuff, stereo, TV, hockey jerseys, cologne, etc., and put it all outside on our enclosed/hidden fire escape. I then go straight back upstairs, hello alibi, and leave with my folks. First chance I get, I call my friends with the bats. "Hey guys, who wants a new wardrobe and entertainment system?" I give them the instructions on how to find all of Sean's stuff, hidden in the unused back alley, and chill with my parents for the next 3 to 4 days. Upon my return to the apartment, I was greeted in awe by a highly entertained hippie roommate who gave me a play-by-play of what went down in my absence. Apparently, Sean returned from his dinner to an empty room devoid of any of his possessions, causing him to rampage through the apartment and curse my name. When the hippie innocently asked, "What's wrong, Sean?" he tells him that I stole all of his stuff, but that his dad would get it back for him. As if, lol. The next morning, his alarm clock was the landlord walking into his room and showing it to a potential tenant, while informing him that he was evicted immediately. He would later be dumped by his rich girlfriend, who was buying his groceries. "You haven't changed, Sean. Again with the lying and cheating." And disowned very publicly by his well-to-do dad. Indeed, his dad had come to the apartment only to tell Sean he was worthless, and that despite his crying and begging, he could not live back at the house. Desperate, Sean followed his dad outside and jumped on the hood of the car, pleading to go home. His dad had to drive to a nearby police station to have him removed. Last thing I heard, he was broke, dropped out of school, dumped by his girlfriend, and camping in a friend's backyard with a tent in Canada in November. Man, I thought Canadians were supposed to be nice. I guess that goes to show don't listen to stereotypes, because I thought Canadians were supposed to be nice, and nothing in this story was nice, aside from the revenge. I do agree that this does not belong in Pro Revenge, and that it does belong in Nuclear Revenge, because man, that was nuclear. OP ruined his relationship with his girlfriend. He ruined the relationship that he was just building back up with his parents. He got him to be homeless. He got his parents not to trust him again. He got his friends with bats nice new stuff, so way to go, OP. And this guy lost everything for maybe even $100. That absolutely sucks, but he did that to himself pretty much. Alright everyone, that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and maybe go check out one of our other videos.